Hello, everybody. Welcome to this very special night where we will have a whole hour, maybe even longer, with Joe Kenner, the CEO of Greyston Bakery. And I'm quite sure to say that we are all fanboys and girls here of Greyston Bakery.
That's excellent.
So it's a huge pleasure to have you in our midst. And we are going to discuss the past, the present, and the future, if that is okay with you.
Perfect. That's perfect.
Hey, but maybe to start, because this is your first time in the Netherlands, so you're all new to these wonderful folks, and also the folks that are watching this video. Could you please introduce yourself?
Well, first of all, Kees, thank you so much for having me here.
My pleasure.
I know we're going to have a good time together, but it's a pleasure to be here in the Netherlands. My name is Joe Kenner, President and CEO of Greyston, and I like to say I am a hybrid. I work for a hybrid, and I am a hybrid. And I'll explain that a little bit. So folks that don't know Greyston, it's a for-profit bakery that's owned by a nonprofit. So Greyston Bakery is owned by Greyston Foundation. Myself, I spent about 14 years in corporate America and Wall Street firms. I spent some time in government at the local level and at the county level before joining Greyston, and I've been with Greyston now for 5 years. I started as the Vice President of Programs and Partnerships, and in April 2020, everybody knows what happened during that time, I became the CEO. So first time CEO, pandemic.
Damn.
Changes, so it was an exciting time. There's a book in there somewhere. Yeah. We can talk about that
The
as
memoirs.
we go along tonight.
Hey, but how did you find Greyston, or how did Greyston find you?
You know, it's very much like my career. My career wasn't a straight line. It was rather circuitous and not really well thought out, if I could be transparent with you. I met my predecessor really by chance, but I always say it's like divine intervention. And when my prior job before coming to Greyston, I was the Deputy Commissioner for Social Services for Westchester County. So if you think about the states in New York, they're divided into counties, and the county that we're located in is Westchester County. And each county has its own county executive. So I worked for the county executive for the first 4 years of his first term as a senior advisor. After doing that job for about 4 years, I said, I'd like to do something else on the policy side, particularly with social services. So I was appointed Deputy Commissioner of Social Services. And during that time, I was developing different programs. I had a fatherhood initiative. I would have conferences. And one of the speakers that I decided to bring was this guy, Mike Brady,
Yep.
the former CEO of Greyston. And we developed a great relationship. I was just impressed with the Greyston model. So that you know, I was in charge of employment for social services. So I was trying to find jobs for people on public assistance so that they could become self-sufficient. I didn't know what Greyston was. I didn't know what Greyston did. And when I heard about this model and I went there to visit the bakery, and I thought, this is amazing. And just so you know my career, I worked for places like Lehman Brothers and PepsiCo. And if you told me there's this place that's doing this thing called open hiring and they don't ask questions and there's no background checks and no interview, I would have laughed in your face. I was like, how is this even possible to do something like this? And when you see it, you think, why wouldn't you?
Yeah. And I can only imagine this, but how was your first, let's say, week? Was it like a culture shock to work in a place that is so special, or was it quite similar to what you were used to?
It's a very good question, but if you look at my career, I'm used to culture shocks. I went from corporate America, Wall Street, to government, and let's just say government moves at a very different pace than corporate America. Yeah. It doesn't. And the focus on results, the focus on just innovation, it's just a different pace in government versus corporate America. But when you come to Greyston, it really blends so much of my career together in such a nice way. There is this purpose piece to it that Greyston is all about. But at the end of the day, it's a business too, as well as a nonprofit. Yeah. So it's all about delivering a great quality product. It's all about developing your people. And for us, it's about how do we unlock human potential. So it really took everything that I really cared about and put it into one job.
Yeah, into one company.
Yeah.
I must say I'm a bit shocked that Greyston isn't world famous in the US.
We're working
Because it
on
is in the Netherlands. I mean, everybody knows.
That's part of my job. We're working on it.
Hey, let's start with let's start with the past. Let's have a closer look at the history of this wonderful company, and maybe if the technique could show the first picture. Because if we talk about the past, we have to start with Bernie, and well, people that know me and have heard me before know that I don't have many heroes, but Bernie is my all-time favorite hero.
You told me I was your hero.
Sorry, Joe. Sorry, Joe, but maybe you knew a hero. No, and this picture is very dear to me because this picture is taken in 2013 when Bernie did his book tour for The Dude and the Sandmaster, his last book that he wrote.
Jeff Bridges.
With Jeff, yeah, and I was asked to kind of travel a bit with him and moderate a couple of conversations with him. And this picture is taken on a walk that we took, and well, he basically gave me a lot of life lessons in, let's say, 3/4 of an hour. Like, wow! But Bernie, I mean, it's the Godfather. How is he still in the company? Because he passed away, of course. And he's one of those figures that can't be replaced. Yeah. But is he still there?
If I had a regret at Greyston, I would say the one regret that I had is I never got a chance to meet Bernie. He passed away in 2018, I believe, and that was the year that I started. So his health was declining, so I never got a chance to meet him. But I read, and it's actually part of every person's package when they start with Greyston, I read instructions to the cook, which to me gives the DNA of Greyston.
It's the best damn book ever written.
Oh, and we give it to every new employee that starts because it really gives you a sense for why we're here and what we're all about. When I became CEO in April 2020, we embarked on a transformation of the organization. And one of the things that I wanted to do was change the mission statement, develop core values, and I wanted to go to the past to see what are the values that really speaks to Greyston. I spoke to Eve Marco, Bernie's widow, and other folks, past board members, current board members, to kind of get it, especially people that knew Bernie, so that as we develop a new mission statement, as we develop the core values, am I still living out or attempting to live out the company the way Bernie wanted to do it? So our new mission statement is, we want to unlock human potential through inclusive employment, one person at a time, which is Bernie.
You would love that.
Which is Bernie. Our core values, some of them are non-judgment, respect, collaboration, empowerment, transformation. Those were things that he was about.
Timeless also.
And just respecting people and meeting them. He would talk about retreating into communities and meeting people where they were. And that's what we do at Greyston Bakery. That's what we do at Greyston Foundation. Have we figured it all out? Are we perfect? No. But we're all on this journey together and not only improve ourselves, but really improve the organization so that we can have a greater impact. So he's alive and well.
Yeah, so maybe it's good to elaborate a bit on the mission and the vision of the company because, well, we're all here fans. So everybody knows, but I know a few people that will watch this video later might not be aware of the enormous speciality of this wonderful company. So could you take us through a short crash course of the history of the Greyston? It started in '82.
Started in 1982, yeah. And I was meeting with a group of social entrepreneurs earlier today, and they were all talking about their different businesses and the products and the services that they offer. And I would say Greyston is one company that wasn't necessarily founded on a particular product, but it was founded on an idea. And the idea was, how do we give people hope? In 1982, when we were founded, when you think back to Bernie and the Zen Buddhist community that he was a part of, they lived in the Riverdale section of the Bronx, which is very close to where we are in New York City, in the Greyston Mansion, which is where we got our name. But they supported themselves baking cakes and tarts.
Yes.
And the area, the surrounding area, think 1982, high inflation, high unemployment, the AIDS crisis was
bad.
rampant. People couldn't get jobs because they were HIV positive or because they were formerly incarcerated or they were on public assistance. They had one or more barriers to employment. And all of these people were on the streets that wanted to work. So, and that's key. They wanted to work, but couldn't because they were being excluded for one reason or another. You weren't a fit, or you were HIV positive, you couldn't get housing. So there were all these issues that they were encountering, and Bernie saw that as a huge injustice.
Yes.
And the key piece about instructions to the cook is, you think of ourselves and society as this big meal, and you need all the right ingredients to make this great meal. But to the extent we don't use a homeless person or the formerly incarcerated person, those ingredients, the meal is not as good as it could be. So as we bring those things together, you have what he would say the grand meal, I believe it was. And that's what Greyston is all about. That's what open hiring is all about. How do we bring everybody into the picture, get them off of the sidelines and bring them into the picture? Because when we do that, everybody gains. But when you're not a part of it, I'm losing something, I'm missing something. And open hiring is that way to bring folks in. And that was really the foundation of who we are and what we strive to be every day.
And also truly inspirational for social entrepreneurship as a whole. I think he truly is a fire starter. He started a movement because back in those days it was still very, very, very uncommon to work with people that were distant from the labor market in general.
Exactly.
And so.
And when you think about open hiring itself, the genesis was Bernie literally going onto the streets and pulling people off the streets and saying, hey, would you like to learn a new skill? Would you like to get some instruction in a trade that's going to be useful either to us as we bake cakes and tarts, or you can use it somewhere else to get a job? That was the genesis of open hiring. Yeah. Again, it was an idea. It wasn't so much about cakes and tarts. It was really about how can we help you and invest in you so that you can be a thriving individual doing whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Hey, and they so they started as a corner shop, a bakery, and then of course a very important second phase in the history of Greyston was the marriage with Ben and Jerry's. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Because you know that story?
A bit.
This is true Greyston because some things just happen. We don't really think about it. It just kind of falls into place. So Bernie attended this social ventures conference. I believe it was in Colorado.
Yeah, Social Venture Network.
Yeah, the Social Venture Network conference. It was in Colorado, I believe. And he literally went for a walk in the woods with these two guys. One guy was named Ben Cohen, and the other guy was named Jerry Greenfield, otherwise known as Ben and Jerry's. And they were talking about what can we do together. Ben and Jerry's makes ice cream. You guys are making cakes and tarts. They were thinking of coming up with this idea of creating a whoopie pie together. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically the center has vanilla ice cream in it, and it's encased with 2 chocolate cookies. We had no experience in making cookies. However, true to Bernie, like true entrepreneur, let's just see if this thing works, invested everything the company had in making this cookie. We shipped the product to Vermont to test it. Unfortunately, when it arrived, it wasn't in separate cookie pieces. It was just this big slab of chocolate stuff. Some guy came up with the idea of saying, okay, well, we can't use this, but what would happen if we just chopped it up and threw it in chocolate ice cream? And that was the birth of chocolate fudge brownie. So fast forward, almost 4 decades later, we're in their top 3 out of their top 10 flavors.
Yeah.
Chocolate fudge brownie, half baked, Netflix and chilled, mint chocolate chance, and Justice remix, and 9 to 11 million pounds of brownies being made every year. I said pounds earlier, and I know you used.
But
someone will translate it.
Yeah.
But that was the genesis of the relationship. It was just this.
Yeah.
encounter with a mistake that became a multi-billion-dollar business.
Yeah, and also a big challenge, of course, because if you work with a company like Ben& Jerry's, which took off as a rocket,
Yes.
you have to grow with them.
Yes.
So that was quite challenging as well, to turn a corner shop bakery by a bunch of Zen Buddhists
Absolutely.
into a proper organization.
And you think, Ben& Jerry's is owned by Unilever, which is a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. And I tell people all the time, because when they think about open hiring and the people that we hire, they think that we have a low-quality product, that we're not profitable. But I tell them, we're making product for Ben & Jerry's Unilever, high-quality standards, high customer service standards. They are tough, and it's a challenge for a small organization to kind of, as you say, kind of grow up. And it's always a work in progress as you work with an organization like Ben & Jerry's Unilever. But it's something we have to do because we want to continue to do what we're doing. As we say, we don't hire people to bake brownies. We bake brownies to hire people.
Yeah.
And the focus will always be on the people.
Yeah, still is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, and did you along the way acquire other big customers that you work with that like the story? Because it's a great story as well for.
And then I know we'll talk about the future, but over time, we've worked with, Delta Airlines.
Yeah.
We've worked with, and now we have, Van Leeuwen ice cream. You might not know these brands, but they're very big in the United States. Jenny's Ice Cream, which is an ice cream manufacturer in the Midwest. We're now in Whole Foods Market, which is a major grocery store chain. We're in their private label ice cream. There's a vegan birthday cake blondie. If you don't have it here, just make a trip to the United States and go to Whole Foods Market and buy it. My 6-year-old loves it. It is a very good product. It's vegan, and you would never know it's vegan if that's not your thing, but it's a delicious product. So we're in those brands as well, and we're constantly trying to think about ways that we can, again, grow the business, but with the intention of how do we continue to employ more people and give them opportunity.
Speaking of people, could we start the second clip for a person who is world famous in the Netherlands? And we will talk later.
I wonder who that could be.
Nope, the other one. Sorry, previous. It's the second video. Sorry. No, yeah.
We're going to edit that.
How did you come to work here?
Basically, after serving 4 years in state prison, I came home. I set a few goals, and I looked for employment like my first 9 months, and nobody hired me because of my past. Then a friend reminded me about Greyston. I came down, put my name on the list. They called me a few days later. I came to the open hiring, to the orientation. After that, they called me 2 days later, and I started working overnight.
And now you're the supervisor here.
Yes, 7 years later, I'm a supervisor, yes.
And why were you incarcerated?
For selling drugs. I sold drugs since I was about 14 to 27. When I was in and out of jail from 19 to 27. I was in and out of jail for selling drugs and other things I was doing. And 2004, when I was 27 years old, I wound up doing 4 years in state prison, and that's when I just wanted to change my life. You know what I'm saying?
That's what you had in mind.
Yes, yes.
Did they give you the opportunity here?
Yes, at Greyston, yes, absolutely, they gave me the opportunity. I started my own family at Greyston. I have 3 babies.
You started?
Huh?
What did you say? You started?
I started my family. I have a 5-year-old daughter. I have my first child while I was working at Greyston, because when I was in the streets selling drugs and in and out of jail, I didn't want to start a family, being in prison and stuff. So now they give me the opportunity, I can take care of my family legally. You know what I'm saying? When I came home, I was living with my mother and my brother. I didn't have no girlfriend. I didn't have no kids. I started all that here. Everything that I achieved working at Greyston.
Great.
Yes.
And is your story the same story as these people?
9 out of sometimes, but a struggle is a struggle. It might be different struggles, you know what I'm saying? Everybody here got their own personal struggle, and we're all trying to work through it and provide for our family legally.
Dion, who still remembers Dion? Yeah, he was there. How's he doing?
Wow, I look at that, you get emotional thinking about, that was 2006,
2016.
2016.
Yeah.
So yeah, he talked about how he was, I guess, recently made supervisor in that video. So Dion's now been with us for about 15 years, and this past few months he was promoted to senior supervisor. Yeah. And to think, yeah.
Up the corporate ladder.
I saw his daughter at an event not too long ago, and she's growing, and he's happy. And you've heard him tell the story. I mean, he has his own place. He has a bank account. He's thriving, and it's just as he said. It's the opportunity. Everybody has a different story at Greyston, but it truly one job working at a bakery making brownies changes the whole trajectory of somebody's life. It's incredible.
Yeah, Dion was with us a couple of years ago, and I had the privilege to be with him for a week, and he just stole everybody's heart. Wherever he went, he was like a rock star.
No, he truly is. But he's a great person and a great worker.
He really touched the heart, yeah. And he's living proof.
Yeah, but he's one of many
Yeah.
at the bakery.
Yeah, so it really works.
And that's the point.
Yeah.
That's the point we're trying to make.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Question. We have a mic. So the idea is if you put up your hand, you have to talk into the mic. Yeah. Otherwise, people can't hear you.
Dion was, he's one of many. He was hired by an open hiring, but what made him thrive? Was it just baking brownies, or what else do you do within these walls, between those machines, to let him thrive?
Good question.
Yeah, it's a very good question. And the way I would answer it is not really what he did. It's really what we did and what other businesses can do. And you'll hear this from many folks. As I said in the beginning, a lot of the folks that we're hiring, they want to be successful. They may not know what that looks like, but all they're looking for is that opportunity to demonstrate it. If you will give them the tools, if you'll give them the support, and when you let them do that, you'll see things happen for them, and things happen for you as a business owner, whatever they're developing a product for you, whether they're providing a service, but folks are just looking for that opportunity and that support. So he already had it. We just had to give them that opportunity.
How does the support look like and the tools?
Yeah. And then awesome questions as well. Over time, we learned, so when you're bringing in folks through open hiring, and we're not perfect and we're perfecting the open hiring model, but I would say, over time when you're bringing in folks through open hiring, you're learning that folks are coming to the table, as all of us do, with their own story, with their own issues, with their own baggage. You start to find out that, why are we losing so many people after whatever period of time? And you learn, folks are sleeping in their car. Folks are dealing with substance issues. Folks might have kids that are in crisis and they need to be home and they can't come to work. When we learned that, we started making some changes to our own structure and our own human resources philosophy. So we have what we call a resource and support specialist. It's a social worker, if you will, that's in our bakery full-time, but not an employee of the organization, nor is she a direct report for or part of human resources.
So she can remain her independence.
She's independent, it's confidential, and she's working with folks on all the issues that they go through: transportation, housing, which is the #1 issue, child support, domestic violence, substance, whatever it might be. She has all of the connections. We work with one of the largest mental health nonprofits in our county. So she's an employee of that organization, but through a contract relationship, she sits in our bakery and provides that support. So she makes connections to the government, connections to other nonprofits, whatever the issue might be, and helps that person. Because we believe if we can help you keep your life stable, you come to work, you're productive, you can bring your full self to work, and that's good for you. And that's good for us, and I say that's good for society, because the folks that are being brought in on the sidelines and working, they can continue to work. So it's win-win-win.
Yeah, so you basically create a support system around the person depending on his or her needs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would say about that is people like to think that this is something that you have to do for this particular population. But I say this is kind of the evolution of human resources. Why wouldn't you do this anyway for any of your employees.
Yeah.
Everybody's having these challenges. Everybody's having these issues. Why wouldn't you provide coaching? Why wouldn't you provide better learning and development? Why wouldn't you provide the proper training so that people can be successful? You need to do that for your entry level, your senior level, and middle management.
Yeah.
So it's just good human resources.
I saw another.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Oh,
Yeah, this one. And yeah, you can keep the mic there. If you can for later questions.
Thanks, first of all, for being here. I fully agree with everything you guys are doing. Hearing all the big multinational partners and companies you're producing for, you're working with, do you think there's a way for them to accept this type of open hiring or this different approach to business
good question.
as a whole?
Yes, I know we're going to talk about this later, but I'll give a little bit of information now.
Sorry.
I would say it's really for all companies, but one of our goals, and one of my goals has been as the CEO, was how do we take open hiring to the next level outside of Greyston? And now outside of the United States, which is great. So we've been working with companies like The Body Shop. The Body Shop is now doing what they call inclusive hiring. It started actually, do I have time for the whole story?
Yeah, you can. Please.
So
do.
it started actually, they did a pilot in 2018, 2019 in one of their distribution centers in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is in the southern part of the United States, to test out, see what they could learn from open hiring. They offered about 300 opportunities during that time, and they found that, the impact that it was having on the number of people that were leaving the organization was incredible. So they cut that rate by almost 2/3. People were staying. Productivity went up 13%.
That's huge. Yeah.
Time to hire went from, about 30 days, which is the normal in the United States, to 5 to 7 days to get new people. So when you think about that from a business standpoint, from a return on investment standpoint, you're saving time, you're saving money, you're saving effort. It's huge. That was Raleigh, North Carolina, 300 opportunities. They decided to take it to the rest of the United States and Canada. The results continued. And then they said, you know what, let's do it in not only the distribution centers, but how about our retail operations, so the consultants that are working in the stores of The Body Shop. The results continued. Fast forward 5 years later, we're now in all their distribution centers in US, Canada, Australia, and the United Kingdom. Several thousand opportunities being offered through open hiring through The Body Shop, which led to now, we just started an agreement with IKEA to start working with them on some select locations within the US. But we have other partners that are smaller that are working on doing open hiring too in the United States.
Yeah, so it's also a very interesting model now. There is the bakery, which is an ecosystem by itself,
Yes.
and a social entrepreneurship, a social enterprise by itself. But then there's also the open hiring method, which you guys basically offer to other companies to integrate in their existing business models, which of course is a fantastic way to scale up
Absolutely.
your societal impact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say, and maybe for the folks that, I think we have a bunch of fans in here, but for the folks that might be listening, to explain what open hiring is, just so that folks
I
understand.
think it will be only 5, but no.
But for the folks that are listening, open hiring essentially is all you have to do is put your name on a list, and your name, email, phone number, and when we call folks in for production calls, we call about 10 people at a time. If you get the call, you get the job, no questions asked. We don't do the interviews, we don't do the background checks, and that's open hiring. And it's been, an incredible way for us to bring folks in. As you say, now I'm seeing just how it's being replicated in different contexts and different industries. And now we're working with our partners. I have to mention our partners, since it's a Dutch company, a Dutch organization, Start Foundation, here in the Netherlands. We're looking at doing over 70 companies now that are doing open hiring here in this country. It's incredible.
How do you combine these two things? Because being a cookie bakery,
Brownies,
a brownie factory is so different than running a method. Is it easy to combine, or hard, or how do you keep those things? How do you juggle?
And that's the purpose of having that mission statement and saying, our goal is to unlock human potential through inclusive employment. Think of the bakery as being the incubator, if you will. That's our test kitchen to see how open hiring continues to evolve. The bakery is owned by a nonprofit that has the same mission statement. We were in a lot of different things over the years: housing, childcare, community gardens.
Yeah, the mandala.
Yeah, that was the true mandala. We transitioned those to other nonprofits that was their core. Our core is employment. That's what we do. That's the lane we're going to stay in. And with the new mission statement, we said, you know what? It's not just Greyston that needs to be at the table here, because the bakery is only 120 employees. And 82% of those 120 are what we would call the open hires. But there are literally millions of folks in our country, and I now know here as well, that are on the sidelines. They're not a part of the official unemployment rate. They need an opportunity too. So how do we take this method to others to share? That is the mission of the foundation, is to leverage the bakery and get the learnings there, but really work with other companies as well to see how we can export this idea to them and customize it. It's going to look different. It's going to have different flavors, if you will, pardon the pun, with other companies and in other industries. But we need to do that and innovate and have this kind of mind shift in terms of our business leadership, because there are many people out there that are, I would say, languishing. They're languishing in despair. They're languishing on public assistance or going through the criminal justice system. How do we stop that cycle, break the poverty cycle, break the criminal justice cycle, and actually bring folks in to the workforce and just, demonstrate what they can do?
Before we go deeper into open hiring, maybe for a short while focus on business. Because one of the many things that Bernie has taught me or inspired me to, and as you know, because you've read the instructions to the cook as well, and I showed that pages in his book many times to my students. I think they got sick of me of showing it, where he introduces his definition of success. Where he basically says, my definition of success is not how much profit I can make, but how little I can make. So he basically introduced what I later have called or labeled the minimum viable profit. And he changed the paradigm around. It's quite easy to maximize profit. It's damn hard to minimize profit. But you need funds to do other stuff that is really important to you. You're the CEO now of this wonderful company. How hard is it to minimize profits?
For me, that's not really the challenge. We're organized as a benefit corporation as opposed to a C Corp. So our focus is on what we call the triple bottom line: people, planet, profit. That's how we're governed.
So you report all three of them?
We govern ourselves. We have KPIs that look at those three different areas. We're a certified benefit corporation through a nonprofit called B-Lab. So we rise to the highest standards of transparency, and we're actually among the top 5% of certified benefit corporations in the world because of our social contribution. So from an organizational governance standpoint and structure, it's very easy to focus on stakeholders, because that's what we do.
It's what you are.
The challenge is, how do we continue to innovate from a business standpoint? And it's all about, yes, I want to diversify my revenue mix. I want to innovate with new products. But it's also about how do we continue to provide opportunities? How do we continue to make sure that our folks are growing? And everybody, not just the bakers, but the supervisors, the managers, the directors, our general manager, myself. How do we continue to grow as an organization? That's the challenge.
Yeah.
People management is hard. I know we're saying a lot of great things, and this is all positive, and it's purpose-driven, but this is hard work. People management is hard work. Running a bakery manufacturing facility, my general manager will tell you, it's hard. Not because it's open hiring, it's just because, one, it's a very tough position. 12-hour shifts, You're standing, you're lifting heavy bags of sugar and flour. It could be a bit monotonous, but it's the opportunity that we have to focus on. But we also want to make sure that our folks are growing, that they're learning new things, getting exposed to technology, that they're developing, and that we stay in business so that we can continue to do what we do. Because of the way we're organized, it's not so much about profit for profit's sake. It's about how do we continue to invest in the organization and in the people.
And does that work? Is it still in balance?
41 years.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and counting. Yeah.
And counting, exactly.
Speaking of, maybe can we start the second clip? It sounds like a proper moment for the second clip.
Because I didn't have that experience, or because I wasn't a male, or because I, didn't have the education, or it was so different factors that they just looked at me and was like, no, and they didn't give me that chance. And I get it, but all I needed was a chance. So I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and I just kept getting no. So it was hard.
Hi, Shauna. This is Melissa calling from Greyston Bakery. Please be here at 9:30 with 2 forms of ID. Congratulations. Welcome to Greyston.
We focus on the future. We don't focus on the past.
How do we give people hope?
It's just been up, They told me yes when everyone else said no. And it means everything.
Just a whole host of folks, about 10 million actually across this country, who have some type of employment barrier.
Starting my lifestyle over from the negative to the positive.
We have this amazing open hiring model that I can tell you is quite revolutionary. This idea of just having someone put their name on a list.
Greyston means everything. I'm stable. There's no question mark for tomorrow. I know that I have a job. I know that my bills are going to be paid. I know that my children are fed.
It's a family because we're looking out for each other.
They want to be part of this team.
I felt like I had new life. I was able to provide for my family.
This is a brand new film.
This was produced in 2021, and just to give the background on that, I have to give credit to a team of film students from Westchester Community College in New York. They learned about us in one of their classes, and like me, they were upset that they had never heard of Greyston before, so they decided to tell the story. So this was produced in 2021, and it's part of a longer 20-minute documentary on Greyston, and they're telling stories of 3 different people, 3 different types of barriers to employment. Shauna, who you saw, single mom of 5. Alvin, who is a formerly incarcerated person. He's part of our maintenance team. I believe it was Maria. We can see who was on there. But she has English as a second language. She speaks Spanish. Shauna, I should tell you, at that time, she was one of our leads in the bakery, and now she's a supervisor. She's one of 3 of our 5 supervisors that are former bakers. So as she says, the key to all of this, and what we do is there's no question mark on tomorrow.
Well, in my research work for the University of Applied Science, I work with the term, a word that I call story maker. So the maker is the message, so to say, and that is so powerful in the Greyston story. It's the people. You never get enough. You can have 50 different folks, and it all resonates because of them. Yes, and it must be really, really cool to be CEO of that. Is there jealousy? No.
It really is, because it's the one place where you can, and this might sound hokey, but it's the one place where you can have a relationship with what you're working with. I mean, it's not just the product.
No, it's not about the cookie.
It's not the brownie, but I can actually go downstairs and talk to one of our clients at the nonprofit. I can have a conversation with Shauna about her story and see what this organization is doing for people. And you'll see this if you just Google Greyston and Wide Open Dreams, or my LinkedIn. I just posted this to my LinkedIn yesterday. Watch the full documentary, but I'll give you a bit of a story on her. She is a single mom of 5. Her story is, and she's been with us now 6 years, I believe. Her story is that she had been told no, as she says, so many times that she had really given up hope. She has 5 kids, one with special needs. And she lost hope. She lost all confidence in herself to the point where she was about to give up her kids and give them to somebody else. It was to the day that she was about to make that decision, she gets the call to work the PM shift. And so now you fast forward 6 years later, she's supervisor with her kids in a home. As she says, I don't have to worry about my bills being paid. There's no question mark on tomorrow.
No. Yeah, that's priceless. Yeah. Powerful. Yeah.
I know it gets it.
It gets me. Yeah, sorry.
It's an emotional thing.
It makes me teary.
And as I said, you only heard 2 stories tonight, but if you just walk the floor and you could, hear Alvin's story, another person who, and Alvin, he looks amazing. Alvin's well into his 60s, but he's thriving, and based on his definition of success, and Shauna, her definition of success.
Yeah, beautiful. Folks, yes, we have a question.
One follow-up question. Thanks for your answer. Well done. How come you guys don't get more government aid in any way? Might be because of the USA thing, because it seems to me like you're solving their problem, which is the society's problem, but is this something you guys are looking into? Is it impossible, or?
Yeah, and I have to say our government officials, I would say at the federal level, at the state level, at the county level, and even at the city level, we have a great relationship with all of our elected officials. And more so, I would say, on the nonprofit side. So we get a lot of, one of the other things that we work with at the nonprofit is we do workforce education and training. So we're training residents in the area and in the county in other emerging fields. So building and construction, trade safety, culinary arts, and they're all getting nationally recognized certifications. And we get federal funding for that. We get private funding for that. We get state and local funding for that. We have a great relationship with the mayor of Yonkers, Mayor Spano, and the whole city council. They support different initiatives. We have a transitional employment program that they're supporting. Could there be more? I mean, what nonprofit's going to say, no thanks, we don't want any more government funding? We could always welcome that, but I think we have a very good relationship with our elected officials that we just need to build on and really have them be the ambassadors as well, talking about Greyston and talking about how this is now this small bakery has just turned this thing into a global movement.
I think this is also one of the things that are quite different in the States than in the Netherlands. I know you were a bit shocked to hear that a lot of social enterprises in the Netherlands that work with people with a distance to labor market are they actually, their employees don't get paid. Well, not in all cases, but in many cases, because it's considered a training procedure, and then ends up with a proper job. That would be impossible in the USA.
Yeah, so
it's quite different.
It's very different. And we were talking earlier about just some of the changes that need to be made to our own welfare system to encourage work and to encourage the support. I think workforce education and training is so badly needed, particularly for this population. And we need to invest in that because, again, it's about, we didn't talk about this, but, and even here, too, I'm hearing it. People keep talking about a labor shortage. And I truly do not believe there is a labor shortage. No. The people are there. I learned this term the other week. The silent reserve of people on the sidelines who have just given up because, like Shauna, they've been told no 1,000 times. and they're just going to stay on public assistance, or they're going to generate income in alternative ways, shall we say, that aren't necessarily beneficial to their future. So,
and we use the phrase "people with distance to the labor market," but it's actually the other way around, of course. It's the labor market that has distance to those people.
yeah, they've been forced to.
They're full of quality.
They're forced to distance themselves. So, how do we bring them in? Is really where, back to your question, that's the role for government. You know, are our social welfare policies encouraging work? Are we investing in models that work?
Yeah.
And also, are we even studying some of the other models that are out there to see if they're even effective? So there's a lot to do, but we're going to do our part, and we're going to continue to analyze our work with partners like the START here in the Netherlands, work with our partners in the U.S. to come up with the data to show, you know, how many people we hire. I even say this is probably the best diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy, the best ESG, environment, social government strategy, the best economic development strategy, because there's substance to it. You know, this is not like after 2020 and when George Floyd and we had all the social unrest in the U.S., everybody's making these lofty statements, we're going to be, you know, 50% people of color by the year, whatever, when people are long gone and nobody cares about. This actually has substance to it because each paycheck is attached to a person, and you can't fudge that. It's another pun I made there, but you can't make things like that up. It's connected to a person. It's DEI, ESG with substance, because there's a person attached to it.
So you've been here now for a couple of days,
Yeah.
and you met a lot of people within the open hiring movement. Of course, started by Start Foundation.
Start Foundation.
So, what is your impression of the Netherlands as a country for open hiring? Do you think there's a fruitful soil?
No, here's the challenge for even the folks in the room, the folks listening, is, you know, I've come away actually being inspired as opposed to inspiring others. I see the inspiration, but I'm the one that's walking away with inspiration because I see the power of the model. I see how it's really, and I remember when the relationship started and the stories with Start Foundation, and now where we are now, we have an online tool where businesses can come and work with Start Foundation. You know, 70 partnerships, over 70 partnerships that they have now in the Netherlands. I was in Belgium the other day, and they're now interested in seeing how open hiring can develop. And we've got IKEA, we've got the Body Shop, and many others. The challenge for us is, let's take this energy that we have now and talk to our government officials, talk to other businesses, tell people, you know, even the Ben & Jerry's of the world, tell the story of the ingredients that are in your product, because it's a powerful, it's not just a brownie. You know, it's not just like all the other sugar and milk that's going into this. Every time someone buys your product, they're actually supporting a global revolution in employment that could change lives, that could transform lives. And we need to encourage them to tell the story, support the story, change legislation so that we can encourage work and get folks off the sidelines and into the mainstream economy. So I leave here inspired. But also, there's a burden here we all need to do something too.
Yep. And do you also feel that because it's kind of your baby? I mean, it's you guys created this. This is you're the founding fathers of open hiring. Yeah. Do you feel safe to also share it with others, because there's so much spirit in it?
Yeah, it's interesting. So there's a few ways to look at that. So I would say the one piece of this is, and it's kind of unusual to be a business that doesn't want to be unique. Like, you want to be the one that's, you know, the big man on campus, but we actually want others to do what we're doing. So I do want them, I want to share the model, I want to share the idea, and I want to see how it can work in other contexts, other industries, other countries. So that part I want to share. However, I also want to make sure that as we share and as folks say they adopt it, that they're truly doing it. And open hiring is not just the removal of the barrier, it's the practice, but there's a philosophy piece to it as well. So we remove the barrier, yes, but now what are we doing to keep people in so that they can thrive? So that's the whole inclusive employment piece. It's removing the barrier, but also giving the tools for success. That all has to happen.
Yeah.
Or it's not open hiring. and that's one of the things Joost and I are.
Yeah, so you're strict about that as well.
And you have to be.
Yeah.
I mean, you really have to be. That's what makes the model, that's what makes human resources successful. You bring people in, give them the tools to be successful. They're happy, they feel engaged, they feel valued, they feel safe. That's not, I mean, it sounds so revolutionary, but it's not really that hard. So that's the key piece of it. So we want to share, but we also want to maintain the integrity of the model, and that's our branding, because I don't want someone to say that they're just doing open hiring so they can get people to come in, but then they pick and choose who they want. That can't happen. And you can't, and you must pay them whatever the going wage is in your particular country, in your particular context. You must give them pathways for growth so it's not just a dead-end job. Those are all things that have to happen, or
And you audit that. So
and that's key.
Yeah.
It's key.
Yeah, it's important, isn't it? Yeah.
It's all about the integrity.
Do you also meet criticism on the model? Is that because I know, for instance, that
How
in
can
the
you
US
criticize open hiring?
well, no, but
I do. No.
I know there is, for instance, a lot of criticism on ESG in the US, which sounds strange as well.
There's so many. There's misperceptions and there's just outright criticism. So some of the misperceptions that folks have about open hiring, particularly in the U.S. and I assume here as well, folks think that they have to do it exactly like the bakery. And that's not true. You don't have to make if you have a manufacturing organization, your entire manufacturing organization open hiring. Do a portion, do one job. I mean, we actually
start small.
We actually used to say start small, and I say this particularly to the public companies in the U.S. Start small, test it out. We did this with IKEA. Let's not try and boil the ocean in one shot. Let's figure out how one location can do this, and we get some learnings from that, and then we can, as The Body Shop did, we can move to other locations, we can move to other countries, but start small. Just think if every business had one open hiring job.
That would change
How many
the world.
people would be hired?
Yeah.
So it's really, and the criticism is also, look, we all have our own biases. So when people think, what do you mean I don't know who's coming through the door? I don't know what their past is. And I say, as long as you can learn the job on the job, and the person is willing to work, they're willing to take instruction, they want to be successful, do I care whether you have a college degree to make brownies?
Simple, eh?
It is so simple, but we have biases, and I think we just need to own up to that, and that's why we have the situations that we have, where there's still a call for diversity. Every study, whether it's McKinsey or some other organization, says the more diverse your organization is, the better the innovation, the better your profit, your revenue grows, because you got people in the room, because we're all looking at things differently, and that's how good decisions are made, when we can challenge each other and bring different perspectives to the table.
Now, I see familiar faces in the crowd, and I know we have an open hiring specialist, hero, a Dutch hero in the place. So, Dirk, would you be so kind to reflect on your experiences? And do you feel at ease with English, or do you want to do in Dutch? No worries, I can translate it.
Nou, ik geef er dan de voorkeur aan in Nederlands.
Ja,
ben ik ook gewend om in te spreken. En omdat het namelijk de woorden zijn die ertoe doen.
Ja, I will try to translate.
Ja, ik neem jullie even heel kort mee in mijn verhaal. Ik ben filiaalmanager van de supermarkt. In 2009 heb ik een geweldsmisdrijf meegemaakt waarbij ik een hersenkneuzing heb opgelopen. En in de periode daarna ben ik eigenlijk op een andere manier naar de wereld gaan kijken. Op een andere manier naar mensen gaan kijken. En vervolgens kwam ik tot de conclusie dat ik onderdeel was van een systeem wat mensen uitsloot op basis van afkomst, op basis van religie, op basis van seksualiteit. Maar eigenlijk had dat nooit te maken met de persoon tegenover, maar met mijn eigen reflectie. Toen ben ik eigenlijk gestart met iets wat ik noemde oordeelsvrij aannemen. En later kwam Start Foundation en later kwam ik met Kees in contact. En toen kwam ik eigenlijk ook bij de Greyston Bakery terecht. En ik doe dat tot op de dag van vandaag. En ik heb op dit moment honderden mensen op deze manier aangenomen. Ondertussen zijn er mensen filiaalmanager geworden die ik heb aangenomen zonder gesprek. Eigenlijk in alle functies en in heel veel verschillende bedrijven. En ik geloof ook, en ik werk er ook hard voor, om open hiring ook te laten werken voor alle functies. Want mijn grootste bezwaar binnen het open hiring... Ik was afgelopen dinsdag ook bij de lancering van open hiring bij Start Foundation. Ik ben daar heel teleurgesteld en boos weggegaan. Omdat het altijd gaat over kansen geven. En ik hoop ooit onderdeel te zijn van een wereld waarin niemand meer een kans nodig heeft. Omdat het feit dat je er bent volwaardig genoeg is om de volgende stap te maken. Dus ik ben, nou ja, open hiring vind ik ook voor de CEO. Ja, dus misschien...
Yeah, so it's a lot. I will try to summarize it. Dirk is a manager of 2 supermarkets in Rotterdam, and he is Mr. Open Hiring in the Netherlands. So you've open hired 100 plus people over the.
I think there are also a lot of Jumbo's at the moment who are working with open hiring, but it's not on the list because I don't want that it be a marketing tool or just a easy tool to get people on the store. It's just the belief in the most beautiful way people can be. And you have to love people before you start open hiring and not have a lack of people on your list.
Yeah, so his concern, to summarize, is isn't there a risk that open hiring becomes a commodity too much, a product? Whereas, which resonates completely with him, is, you know, you're the real deal, so to say. So as Bernie was, so it's the spiritedness. Is it? Can you guard it or capture that if you let it go?
And that's the point of having the relationship, that particularly here in the Netherlands with the Start Foundation. Do not call it open hiring if you're not working with us.
Yeah.
Because we want to bless it and say that, you know, this is the model that we're practicing. Open hiring is actually, in the US, it's a trademark term. So do not say open hiring if you're not working with my team in the U.S. or working with, you know, Jos and the team at Start Foundation here in the Netherlands, because we want to make sure that folks that say they're doing open hiring are truly doing open hiring, and we will call you out if you're not. And that's part of protecting the integrity. And I understand your concern. I worry about, and that's one of the things I do worry about, people using it as a marketing tool.
Yeah.
And I don't care if you use it as a marketing tool if you're actually doing it. Because we should talk about that makes you a great employer if you're actually doing it the way we say. But if you're not, don't call it open hiring, and please don't use our name.
Yeah.
But the concern I also have is that last week we talked about, now a few Dutch terms, mensen met een afstand tot de arbeidsmarkt, het schaap met de 3 poten, deze mensen.
All labels.
When I drive home, I was ashamed that I used the term open hiring for my people, because they are fantastic people and they can also get a job without open hiring. But the problem with open hiring in the Netherlands is that we degrade it to, we have a job you don't need to know anything for, and then you don't know anything, you're welcome. So
Okay, so you're afraid that it might degrade the perception also of the people themselves.
Yes, because they are fantastic people. And
yes,
and I
think open hiring is the most inclusive way of hiring people, but why don't we use open hiring, the system, a little bit different, but the system for hiring a manager or a CEO, because it has everything to do with bias. A criminal record don't make you a criminal. You are a person, a fantastic person with a criminal record. And I hope that we can make open hiring a way of looking at people, and not just for one job or one in a company, but every job and every function every time.
And I get your concern, Derek, and I would say, I think it's about just changing the narrative a little bit. So as you describe it, I would never describe it that way either. I mean, open hiring for us, and we say this, it's no questions form of hiring. I don't even talk about who we hire. For us, it's the purest way to get rid of...
To see people.
To see people, and just to get rid of...
see the potential.
Get rid of the bias, get rid of the selection process, because it's not necessary for a job that you can learn on the job. That's a different way of describing open hiring. But in terms of marketing it and talking about it, to me, it's another employee benefit when you think about it.
Yes.
That's a more positive way of looking at it. And we're not hiring excluded people. We're not hiring the unemployable. We're actually changing that narrative too, because we're demonstrating that they shouldn't be excluded.
You're igniting full
And they
potential.
are very much employable. Actually, in the US, all of our folks in manufacturing during the pandemic were deemed essential. The businesses had to keep operating because the businesses was essential. And I said, it's the most ironic thing that here I am running, we have this bakery running, hiring people that were once deemed excludable and unemployable. And now you're telling me that we have to keep running during a pandemic because they're essential. So it was perfect marketing for us.
Hey, but one good thing is, if you ever think about quitting at the Greyston, you have a successor already.
There you go.
You're
That should be by open hiring. How were you hired?
It's the funniest thing. So I had two...
Good question.
And it's a very good question. It's actually kind of hilarious when you think about it. So I've had two jobs at Greyston, Vice President of Programs and Partnerships at the foundation, and now President CEO of the entire organization. And both positions. I think I interviewed with no less than 10 people, including the senior leadership team, members of the board. It was crazy. But we are brought through what I would say is the traditional hiring process. However, I say this now when I interview people, encourage the senior leadership team to do the same as well. I will have a non-negotiable, and that non-negotiable is if you are not 200+% behind the mission and committed to it, I really don't care about your resume, but in another way, you can't work here. You could have the best resume, you can be the best finance person, you can be the best marketing person, but if you're not committed to this mission, if you can't work with our population, if you are not going to take this to the next level, you should work somewhere else. So there we are more selective, but it's selective in my understanding for the right reasons.
Yes.
Because you have to be behind this. And you don't have to, none of us are indentured servants. We can go wherever we want. You don't have to work here, but if you're not committed to open hiring, if you're not going to have a non-judgment attitude, if you're not going to be compassionate, this is not the organization for you. But I had several interviews for both positions that I've had now.
We are running out of time, but I have one last question too, because let's end this talk by looking a bit forward. We look back to the history. We discussed the current situation, open hiring. Let's think big. Let's think system change. How could the world look like if you had your way? If open hiring, if inclusive economy, if rebooting capitalism would be a fact. Could you take us through basically your dream?
It's actually our 2030 vision. I mean, it's really 3 points that we have, and I wish every company could do this, but have an understanding, have this mind shift, and see that your business, your organization, could actually be a force for good. And not just make widgets or provide some service, but through that service, you could change something. And I would say, make a net positive, thank you, Paul Pullman, for Unilever, but make a net positive contribution to society through your business. Our vision for that is through inclusive employment. I would say that's the first piece. And the second, recognize that what we're doing at Greyston is actually the creme de la creme of inclusive employment. This is the model that should be brought to
The new normal.
to your organization. And, you know, as Joost would say from Start Foundation, we just eliminate bias and judgment when it comes to these entry-level positions and just bring folks in. If we do those 2 points, and our third point is this, we could really unlock so much potential. We have, it's a small yet large goal because it's going to take time, but our goal by 2030 is to have 40,000 jobs in the U.S. be offered through open hiring. It sounds small, and when we have millions of people on the sidelines, but when you think about this, when you think about the 40,000 that's generating income, that's new income that's coming into the economy because they're now working, people that are off public assistance, that's a savings to the government, people that are diverted from the criminal justice system, so another savings. Conservatively, that's $3 billion of impact, 40,000 jobs. What did I say earlier? We have millions of folks. Just think, if we could bring the folks off the sidelines into the economic mainstream, again, that's economic development strategy. That's my goal.
It's rebooting capitalism. Yeah.
It's rebooting capitalism. It's really, to Shauna's point, it's, you know, you're removing that question mark about tomorrow, and it's a positive future for everybody.
Joe, it was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
And amen to that. And you know, I'm absolutely sure that Bernie would be very, very happy to see us talk here, and it was a pleasure. And I wish you well in the next couple.
But we have our work.
I hope your dream comes true, man.
Oh, it's not. We're not going to hope. It's going to come true. And we're seeing it every day. But we have our work cut out for us. But I've enjoyed my time here in the Netherlands, and I hope to come back and see how it looks and how we've really taken open hiring to the next level in, let's say, a year's time.
Good. Folks, Joe Kenner, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
On that note, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for your questions.